talk about personal branding, myth and reality. Many of you here may be under the impression that, this personal branding is a fad, is some new kind of a fad. Why should it matter to me? I am a young executive or going to be a young executive. It's meant for CEOs. It's too complicated and, isn't it just bragging? So hopefully at the end of this 20-minute talk, you will get some clarity on what personal branding is and how it matters for all of us. The fact is that in the Harvard Business Review, June 2023, the cover story was on personal branding. Okay? And in the article, they made this kind of a complex definition of personal branding. Is an intentional strategic practice in which you define and express your own value. This is what HBR is saying it. But I like this thing which Jeff Bezos said a lot better, which is your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. That, in a sense, is your personal brand, right? And so in this little talk, I'm going to look at 7 myths of personal branding, and I'm going to kind of demystify these 7 myths by presenting the facts. And it's up to you to decide whether you still believe in the myth, or now that you're clear, you don't believe in the myth and you believe in the reality. So let's start with the first myth. The first myth is that this personal branding is something new, which has come up during this whole social media deluge. Everyone wants to post every day on Instagram and LinkedIn and all that. This is personal branding. But the reality is, personal branding, the first article to appear on personal branding was written in the year 1997. It came as a cover story in a magazine called Fast Company, August-September issue. It was written by a management guru by the name Tom Peters. He said, you are a brand, it's up to you to decide what you want to be fashioned as. So if you search for articles on personal branding, chances are this will be the first article Google will throw up. ChatGPT may throw up something more, but Google will definitely throw this one up. Okay, so it's not new. Personal branding is almost 30 years old. So it has got nothing to do with the rise of social media. It's been there before, it's 30 years old. So it's not a new fad. Okay, that's first myth. We're debunking that. Next, a lot of you here may think, personal branding is meant for CEOs. It's meant for celebrities. I'm told we have a celebrity coming in soon. It's meant for them. What does it matter to me? I am a young executive. I am an account manager. I'm a finance manager. Why should I be worried about personal branding? The truth is that you, irrespective of the level in the company, you have an image, you have a voice, you have a mission, and therefore you are a brand. It's up to you to realize that, or you're losing an opportunity. So first myth, personal branding is not something new. Been there 25 years. Second myth, personal branding is not only for superstars and celebrities and nowadays cricketers, right? Personal branding is for every one of us here. Let's go to the third dimension. Personal branding happens on its own. And this is a myth I come across whenever I sit and work with coachees. I'm an executive coach. I work with coachees, and they say, I do my job. I'm working hard. I'm delivering my numbers. Why should I do all this personal branding? If I do my job, if I work hard, I will get the recognition. Why should I do anything more? The truth is that just doing your job is not enough. So there is this interesting grid which I created with my colleague at SPMR, Professor Janikram Murthy, said that, look, you can be very competent, you can be not so competent. You can be very good at building a personal brand, you can be not so good at building a personal brand. So let's look at the bottom part, which is people who are not competent. If you're not competent, and if you're not very good at personal branding, you will be a survivor. You will be hiding behind some bench, some stone. You will not get discovered. You will continue in your job. You will not get sacked till you get discovered, but chances are you won't get discovered. The other side is someone who's not very competent, but who's always talking about himself. I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. What happens to that person, that guy or girl, that you get discovered and you either get reassigned to some other job or you get sacked. Right? So let's go to the top of this grid. You're good. You're very good in your job. You deliver the numbers. You're hardworking, right? And you're very competent. But you don't have any personal branding skills. What happens to you? You get branded as a workhorse, which means you get promoted at the usual time once every 3-4 years. You get the normal kind of postings and your career chugs along. The other side, if you're good, you're competent, but you're also able to project a strong personal brand, you get seen as a star. When you get seen as a star, you get promoted probably a little earlier. You probably get the more challenging, more interesting assignments, and your career takes off. So all of you here have to remember this, that personal branding and competence have to go hand in hand. And my personal bias, competence is more important than personal branding. You got to be competent. Then you start worrying about your personal brand. So we looked at myth number 1, which is new. Personal branding is not new. Myth number 2, which is personal branding only for CEOs, which is also not true. Myth number 3, personal branding will happen on its own. That's also not true. Now we come to a more interesting side of personal branding, which is personal branding is all about bragging. Right? Personal branding is saying, I'm a great guy. I've written so many books. I've delivered so many TEDx talks. I have so many people following me. That is bragging, right? And you can brag if you are Muhammad Ali. Right? Muhammad Ali said, it's not bragging if you can back it up, and he could back it up. We can't back it up. Therefore, we can't brag. But therefore what? How do we then tell people about our successes? So what you need to do is you got to be proud of your successes. You got to be loud, but you got to be strategic. If you're sitting and negotiating to sign up a team or get a sponsorship of a cricket team, there's no point telling the captain of Mumbai Indians or whichever cricket team you're negotiating with that you scored a century in your cricket match in your school. Doesn't matter, right? So you got to be loud, you got to be proud, and you got to be strategic when you talk about your achievements. The other second trick I'm told, and it works very well, is never talk about your achievements. Talk about your team's achievement. Never say, I did this project on time, but say that, sir, I worked with so and both of us completed this project ahead of time. We were given 10 days, we've done it in 4 days, right? By sharing this, you therefore get to be seen as a team player. At the same time, you are loud, proud, and strategic. Third, if you go up the hierarchy, it's always good if you're a senior person to be a little self-deprecative, a little bit humorous about how you talk about your achievements. Okay, that again reduces the kind of a nasty thing of a braggart. Right, so personal branding is not new. Personal branding is for everyone. Personal branding doesn't happen on its own. You have to work hard. Personal branding. And personal branding, now you saw, is not bragging. Let's go to a more interesting area, which is what I call networking. When I talk about networking, again to some of my coaches, they say, no, my network is very good. I know a lot of people. In the company, I know 25 people. That's my network. But the point is, that is not your only network. Your network has to be wide, has to be deep. And that's how you become a strong personal brand. So let's go back to the origin story of a company called Microsoft. All of you know of this company, very, very successful company, right? Who's the founder of this company? Bill Gates. What was the first contract Bill Gates got for Microsoft? Was to develop the disk operating system for a computer called the IBM PC. The year was 1980-81. How did Bill Gates who was a Harvard dropout, get to know IBM was developing a PC and got the contract for doing the software for IBM PC. The story has it that Bill Gates' mother, Mary Gates, was a banker, like my previous speaker, Mr. Manian, a very successful banker, and she was also very actively involved in NGOs. And one of the NGOs she was very actively involved is an NGO called United Way. And she was one of the board members of United Way. And she used to attend the meetings very regularly, participate very strongly, and she got to befriend a whole set of new people in the United Way board. And one of them was a gentleman by the name John Ackers. So in one of the meetings, John Ackers asks Mary, Mary, your son must be in college, right? So what is Bill doing now? He's in college, right? So Mary says, look, John, he was in college, but he has dropped out. So, oh, dropped out? What is he doing? Well, he's sitting in our garage and he's working with some computers and he says he's writing software. So John Acker says, interesting. You know what? Ask him to come over to New York. I want him to meet my team who's working on our new computer, a small computer called IBM PC. So Bill goes to IBM, gets to meet the IBM PC team, and he writes the software for the first IBM PC. Right? And that's where the journey started. Today, Microsoft, I checked this morning, Microsoft's market capitalization is $3.1 trillion, which is roughly 10 times that of IBM. It all started getting a contract. How did he get the contract? How did he get the introduction? Because his mother had a great network. So all of us here have to understand what is our network. So what is the structure of our network? How deep is our network? How wide is our network? If I ask you to name 20 people who are part of your network, and you name 19 people who are in your batch of students, and one outside who's probably a school friend of yours, I'm sorry, that's not a great network. Your network has to be diverse. It may include someone who you go for a run with in the morning. It may include someone who's part of your book club. It may involve someone whose house you go to do yoga, right? It has to be diverse. The network has to be diverse and the relationship has to be deep. John Ackers knew about Mary Gates and her son, which means they had sat and discussed all this, right? I have a son who's studying, blah, blah, blah. Your network has to be wide, your network has to be deep. And every one of us, it's up to us to build our network to be wide and deep, right? So that was our myth number 5. Now let's go to myth number 6, which I again hear very common, right? This personal branding is too complex. I can't spend time doing this. It's just too complex. But the fact is, first of all, life, everything is complex in a sense. Coming and standing up and giving this talk is complex. Right? Everything is complex. So nothing can be easy. But at the same time, it is not as complex as it's made out to be. It starts really with what Seth Godin said, start defining yourself in 4 words. What are the 4 words you'll define yourself? Articulate, competent, analytical, quantitatively oriented, humorous, serious, right? Sporty, committed, deterministic, persuasive, right? How do you define? And there are clear 5 steps. The first step, define your brand in 4 words, maybe 3 words, maybe 4 words. Define it yourself for yourself. But this is your view. The world may not see you that way. I may think I'm a very, very humorous speaker, but none of you may think I'm humorous, right? It's not working. So after you put down your 4 or 5 words, then talk to someone who's your advisor, who's your mentor, and validate this. Are these 4 words right for me? or am I talking through the top of my head? Okay. After you finalized your 4 words, then you start working on building your brand. Express yourself. You want to be seen, you're seen as a somewhat funny guy, right? Little humorous guy. Maybe you should start wearing orange trousers, right? So you do something different to bring out your personality. I know a friend of mine who's a CEO of a media company, right? His quirkiness was socks. He has a collection of multicolored socks. He only wears those multicolored socks. That's a quirkiness which is developed. So how are you going to bring out your personal brand, and then how are you then going to amplify it? Maybe through social media, maybe through other means, coming and giving talks like this, amplify your brand, and finally monitor how your brand is doing. You may have to make changes. After 2 years, you may say, no, this is not working, or I am seen this way, I need to make this change. So make the change, right? So this is myth number 8. So we started with personal branding is not new. Personal branding is something is meant for every one of us. Personal branding doesn't happen automatically. Personal branding is not just bragging. Personal branding and networking are important. Right? And personal branding is not all that complex as we think it is. And now we come to something which a lot of young people mistake as equal to personal branding, which is social media. Right? People think social media is equal to personal branding, which is incorrect. You have to define your personal brand, and social media comes on top. Social media is nothing but the icing on the cake. It is not the cake, right? If it is a cake, everyone will become a champion, right? So it's not, right? It's just the topping of the cake. So be aware of that. So be aware that your personal branding is not equal to social media. Personal branding gets topped up by social media. So with this, we have all the myths out there. It is not a fad. It doesn't happen only for CEOs. It doesn't happen on its own. It is not bragging. Networking is not a waste of time. You can probably end up building a $3.1 trillion company if you have, or your mom has a good network, right? Networking is not too complex, don't worry. There are not, huge grids and complicated flowcharts. It is pretty simple, and networking is not just social media. It's a lot more than social media. And to bring it alive, I think Seth Godin says it very nicely that many of us taught to do your best and let the world judge us. But it is better to do your best and decide how you want to be judged by the world. Right? So this little talk is pulled out of my book, All the World's a Stage, which I call a personal branding story. So thank you very much for your patient listening, and happy personal brand building. Thank you.